And we are back again, live, pre-recorded live, with another episode of MB2 Underground. If you didn't know, I'm Sarah Kiefer.
And I'm Joe Fox. Welcome. What's happening, Ms. Kiefer? How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. How's coffee number
Mind your business.
2?
Mind your business.
Confirmed 2, because I saw the first one.
Shut up. I'm here. That's what matters. How's your day going?
It's going great, right? We got another great guest. This person happens to be my vote for the coolest cat in the whole damn building. Actually, whole 2 buildings. We now have 400.
Wait.
No, I'm dead serious.
You don't get a
You said coolest cat, and I feel like that needs a second.
He just broke the rule. Yeah.
And
you know why?
then you said damn.
Yeah, no. But damn's
You get
okay.
on to me about my potty mouth, but you've said
Damn's
it now.
okay. Damn's okay.
Okay, now I know the rules.
Remember,
Damn.
best
okay.
damn ribs in Memphis, right? Dr.
Right.
Dove. Damn's okay.
Okay, fine. The cats, yes.
So coolest cat in the whole damn building. Multiple reasons, but 2 reasons in particular. This person was the student body president of Texas A&M University. You know how big a deal that is?
No.
A lot of Aggies. We represent a lot of Aggies in the house. A lot of Aggie partners. But there are 70,000 plus students at that place. It is huge.
And they trusted this guy to be the president of all of them?
It's like vote for Pedro. Like we got to hear the story about how he won this election. This is a big deal.
Well, if you introduce him, we can ask.
But here's the other reason that he's the coolest cat, and another reason, not the only reason.
Okay.
This guy also, while being the student body president of Texas A&M University, he drove a bus in college.
For fun?
Like, can you imagine like having to go drive a bus?
Oh, like as a job.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you
think
meant
this
like
is a job. We're gonna ask him.
his car was a bus.
No, I mean like he actually drove a bus for.
He's a
job.
man of the people.
I know. Yeah. The
A
CFO,
president of the people.
CFO of MB2 Dental. The favorite son of South Lake Carroll Dragons, Mr. Jackson Hildebrand. Welcome, friend.
It's quite the intro.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad this is on radio. I'm blushing, Joe.
So sorry, it took a while. So how did you become a bus driver?
Oh, man. Freshman year, came back home for the Christmas holidays, and my older brother, who's a student at the time, told me that was a good idea, and I just followed suit. You actually have
Such
to get
a little brother thing to do.
Yeah, such a little brother thing to do. You have to get your CDL.
Which is not
which is like
easy.
It's easy enough.
I mean, he's like, I did it.
Yeah. I'm a terrible driver, so they should not have employed me to be
Follow
a
up.
bus driver.
Is it like yellow bus or like the college bus that are like the big ones?
There's both. There's the
But, like,
yellow
which one did you
bus,
drive?
Both. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you just have to have one license. Unfortunate for me. So
you just bus hop.
yeah, no, it lasted a semester, and they didn't fire me, but they stopped letting me drive anymore. They didn't get more shifts.
You said I'm not on the
because-
schedule anymore.
Yeah, just didn't hit the schedule. No, I was a freshman, and so you get the worst shifts, and so I had
Which
like
is?
a 6 a.m. to 9.
Man, that's miserable.
Yeah, and I would always miss them, but this will date me. The voicemail, you had an answering machine in the dorms, right? And so I'd always wake up at like 5:50 from bus ops, and they would be telling me that I missed my like shift. I was like, oh God.
So it was really just an alarm clock.
It was an alarm clock.
I love
And
it.
so I'd pick up my stuff, and I would like run across campus. It was like a mile and a half away to go and like inspect the bus and, ultimately get on my shift. And so funny into the story, my older brother, who somehow coaxed me into taking this stupid job, he was called in for like getting reprimanded for like showing up late to shifts and whatnot. Got like 5 minutes into it and goes, I think you're meant to be meeting with my brother. Yeah.
The other Hildebrand.
The other Hildebrand. So that's how I shifted away from being a bus driver.
Awesome.
So.
Well, really quickly, before we get into the fun finance geek stuff, tell us about literally how your campaign to become the student body president of Texas A&M. What was the shtick? What was it? Literally a vote for Pedro T-shirt, or like
Yeah,
what did
pretty
you do?
Pretty much. I mean, false confidence, I guess, had me even like running for something like that, because I don't have any intention of being maybe like some sort of hope to do politics someday, which
Really?
quickly was erased by this.
By that experience.
Yeah, no, I actually had a really good friend. He was a marketing major.
Yeah.
And he was like, we can get anybody elected. And I'm like, really?
Prove it.
Prove it. So it was a backjack campaign.
What does that mean?
Wow.
It
Backjack?
was just bumming off the Jack in the Box, slogan. And then I think it was really ahead of his time, just like advertising around campus, doing all the signs. And, there's a couple hundred people that would be on your campaign, and they would go across
my
campus.
gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
What did
pretty
your
wild.
duties entail?
So A&M, I mean, it's a big school, but
That's
it's
what I
pretty
hear.
student centric. So you get to have little more involvement than most. At the time, now Secretary of the State, Robert Gates was our president. George Bush Sr. was still living and his library was there. So
How cool.
yeah, it was just experience after experience of meeting people. Like Schwarzenegger would be there for a dinner and I would get to go and kind of be at the table.
Sweet name drop.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's awesome. What a cool experience. What a cool experience. All right. So how did you meet MB2?
All roads lead to Puckett, right? So it was
Uncle Pucks.
Uncle Pucks.
Every episode.
Yeah. Every episode, I'm sure.
Uncle Pucks just creeps me out. I
So-
don't like that phraseology.
Love it. It's my favorite.
So Puckett and I were classmates, and he was an accounting major, deep dark secret. Yeah.
CPA and attorney, right?
So we had CPA and attorney. He identifies as CPA. There's no accounting in the blood. So
I love it.
That tracks.
yeah, and I was at TPG, which is private equity.
Yeah.
I was on the back office side and headed to an investor conference and got that text message of, "Hey, do you have any interest?" And a couple years earlier, I mean, I'd always wanted to go work at a company like MB2. Wanted to be on the operations side. So our TPG buys and sells companies, right?
Yeah.
And so was just fascinated by it. But I was young, inexperienced. There was no chance that I was going to get to go in some sort of ops role like that. But a lot of the people I looked up to while I was there did that. They would like parachute in and work at these companies.
Not literally, though, right?
No actual parachute.
Okay.
So yeah, just more
making
of a metaphor.
Okay. My kind of guy.
Then, yeah, I said, well, let's test the waters. I remember telling my wife, like, there's zero chance they're hiring me for this. But the meeting went well. I think I was able to connect with. It was 2017. First had private equity involvement, and so real good interview. I walked away pretty pumped. Would have been bummed to not have the opportunity. And then you have guys like Dr. V and Puckett who go out on a limb for you, and started work a couple months later.
I love it. So what part of 2017 was it before or after the Sentinel?
September
Okay.
was when they closed the deal, and I came on in December.
Right,
So-
right there. And we had about what?
They were like,
85
what did we
practices?
just do? We need some
Oh,
help.
yeah. No.
We
They
need
were
a
like, hey,
finance
we
geek.
need a CFO, I guess.
Should we get one
yeah,
of
let's
those?
get that one.
We need a real CPA in the house. So we had 85 practices ish at the time.
85 practices, 100 million revenue. We were,
Wow.
we were on QuickBooks. Like it was,
Unreal.
Yeah,
It
what
was-
was that transition like from private equity to like
it
being
was
on this side of things?
It was the best. So I'd done public accounting, then I did private equity, surrounded by professionals, attorneys, CPAs, very like, people ambitious, always kind of looking at that next level. You go to a fast growing company like MB2 that, at the time was a startup, but, we still act like a big startup company. And so just a lot more chill, no tape at all in regards to making change. You had a guy like V who I'd put him to sleep if I started like telling him what I was doing on the finance and accounting side. And
It's like, I trust you. Just go do it, please.
Amen. And he did. And, he let you screw up, and we learned a lot along the way. And so I think there were 85 locations, but there were only 35 owners. Right. And so it was manageable at the time. And then we kind of slowly but surely started growing the team, and 750 some odd
Unreal.
practices. So
I love it. So how did you transition from QuickBooks into a more robust platform?
Yeah. Well, I'll say both partners that we had on in my time with Sentinel and Charles Bank have been phenomenal support. So there was there was a group that did a Q of E on a monthly basis, and so really just trial by fire, got to learn from them ideas of what to do, what not to do. But they were already in the process of switching it to the ledger we're on now and the new systems. And I think I'm pretty organized, shocker accountant type A. But
Do you have a signature now on your emails?
I still think I delete my signatures. The same, just
IT's
my
like
new
pushed it out, and you're like, no.
I'm not doing that. But yeah, it's like, it was just, how can we streamline? Like, how can we get everything? I mean, we're paid to be boring, to be honest. Vanilla, and we joke about ham sandwiches all the time. Like, if we could just have everything be the same, so then you bring something on board, it's pretty lockstep. And so that's been the goal. I mean, it's a slow process, but having one treasury system, having one ledger, nobody's sad to see finance and accounting go by the wayside, right? I mean, like, no one's passionate about about numbers, and if they are, I mean, then
Nerds.
more power. Yeah, nerd for sure. But more power to us, and it means we have more eyes on the P&L. But yeah, started to surround myself by like-minded folks that had the same sort of vision on it, and so there's 75 folks here in the Carrollton
That
location.
is insane.
Yeah, just
Finance team.
paying your people, paying your vendors.
Awesome. Well, tell us more about what the finance team does. I mean, there you just did, but paying your people, pay your vendors.
Yeah. So the handful of leaders, and they're all different. They have different teams, but they all took the banner and ran with whatever, whether it be running the accountants or the accounts payable group or payroll, heck, even the reporting side. They picked what path they wanted to go for. And I like to think I'm fairly laid back and like hands off, and I'm sure they would disagree on certain days, but so long as they feel supported, I mean,
wow.
Look at what they've done. I'm pretty happy with with the state of affairs of good old finance and accounting right now.
So how have you guys been able to scale? I mean, you were talking about coming in about 85 locations, and there's 700 more than that. Yeah. Now, how have you guys been able to keep up with the growth and supporting that many practices? Because even when I tour, finance is one of the things I talk about that touches every single practice. It's very integrated in all of our partnerships. Where there's some a la carte department or resources MB2 has, how have you guys been able to keep up with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's super personal, right? Because it's their wallet. So there's an aspect of the finance and accounting side that, like, you screw it up, they get real,
It's emotional.
Yeah, it's emotional.
Yeah.
Right.
Psychology of money.
But to be candid, you screw up a lot and you learn from them, those mistakes. And then you just kind of have to, step in and be a little bit of voice of reason when you really, we're a big enough company where there's recourse for everything, right? And there's a lot of big groups out there that have the benefit of, we're going to make it right. Like what I've promised people, and you've said in on all these new owners that come through and learn about MB2, like there's going to be hiccups, but, you're never going to encounter someone at MB2 in these walls that don't care. So that's the difference. And you run through multiple people that come and go at MB2. I think we have a pretty good continuity and tenure for folks. But yeah, like we keep the good ones that are just here and good natured, and that works.
Yeah.
What was it like going through COVID as the CFO of MB2 and specifically managing partners' PPP loans?
That time was
all
chaos.
Yeah. I mean, go back to the personal nature of like, okay, now we are told we can't work, right? And that's how they make their money. It was weird for those few weeks. Was certainly like we learned a lot ourselves of like what the options were. And we were all at home, by the way, like just having Zoom calls. So we're learning all that. I mean, quick story, when we were first kind of bringing the group together and teaching them into like the stuff that they can apply for, whether it be CARES Act related things, I was so new to the Zoom world that I think I had too many people and it timed out. And so we're in the middle with like 100 owners on a call, and like the accountant is for some reason leading this charge. And it zips out, and V was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh my God!" I really thought I was done. I was like, "Well, this is good.
This is how it ends.
This is a fun 2 years."
I think Zoom had a 45-minute cutoff at some point.
Yeah, it's
before we got on the enterprise account. Yeah.
I can barely work my Outlook, so lo and behold, I screwed that up. But it ended well. MB2 got to work 45 days in, back to 100%, about 60 days. It was pretty nuts. And then you had folks on the team that were identifying PPE and things to get them back up and rolling. And then 3 or 4 months later, you have so many of these. We're back to partnering with groups. So many groups are like, "Yeah, I'm not going to be on my own anymore." So we thrived during that time.
Yeah,
that's super cool. I love it. Tell us about one of the cool things your department focuses on is our sidecar funds. They're very unique, kind of a really cool story and history about why they exist. But can you tell listeners more about those and kind of what they are and why we have them?
Tell you as well.
Yes.
Dr. B's had this around since the beginning. When they just started grouping practices together, they would pull together cash, and they'll joke that they really struggle with getting banks convincing them to lend them money anyway. So they would literally just pour their cash into the next practice location, and so they pulled from that, and the private equity guys scratched their heads a bit because it's giving up on the upside. But in essence, it's like a dental mini mutual fund, right? You're investing in the growth. It's a little past the hat, right? So you go to the docs and say, how much do you want to invest? We cap it. Very popular. And then you basically start to carve out those dollars and put them to work alongside MB2. So anytime we partner with a practice, we're going to put dollars to work on behalf of our owners. Alignment and then retention, both of them. So you're in Texas, you got a practice in North Carolina, you're rooting them on, right? Because you're both, sharing an investment in one another. Yeah. And then on the retention side, we have 700 plus practices. I'll lean to Ms. Kiefer as to what the number is, what the count is, but there's 600 owners. So, there's 1,500 dentists. So there's so many more people that are, putting in the work and helping our same store growth go up. So I don't know, who it was, whether it was PE or Dr. V, but said we got to put this in the hands of the associate, like key associates. Yeah. So now we have almost as many associates invested in that sidecar.
Love it.
So,
that's super cool. And what's the fee structure on that?
None.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, not a thing.
It's pretty special.
Which again,
that's amazing.
It's where our guys are like, "What? Why are you not doing?" But it's unique investment. Having $1 turned to $2 makes sense for people. Yeah. They love it, and it's going to stay around. And I would hope that others are mirroring that investment. Across.
So Ms. Kiefer, similar fee structures in the finance industry.
I have never been called Miss Kiefer so much in my life. I feel like this is very formal.
It's a Southern thing. Sorry, it's how I grew up. 2 and 20, right? Is the kind of buzzword. It's 2% of the assets you invest, no matter what happens, and then 20% of the upside, right, or the profit. And so that's pretty hefty. It's a very typical private equity fund, hedge fund type fee structure, and there's zero fee with the MB2 sidecar investment. It's really neat. It's a really kind of special part of the culture.
Pretty dope.
Me too. What has it been like obtaining financing for MB2, right? We have a credit facility is very important to our ability or the business development group's ability to continue to, add new partners. What has that process been like?
So in the same complement to our first PE group, our current one, Charles Bank, has a capital markets team that's out of this world. So I'll say that they're able to raise certain financings at $150, $250 million at a time, and so you don't have to go back to the coffers all the time, and it's super helpful. It gives you a lot of, as like on the business development side, you have a bit of swagger, and like it's never about you not having the money. You get to make decisions for the right reasons, whether it be pricing, key man risk, and the like, and so. Just being a part of that, it's really cool to piggyback and act as if it's anything I'm doing. I certainly liaise and help, hopefully, in our results. Thanks to the ops team. It makes it easy for us, but it is a lot of coordinating, and it's really folks that invest in so many different spaces and kind of recalibrating them back to dental and what they're putting their horse behind, but. We have a great lender, a small syndicate, but kudos to Charles Bank. Like that's really the engine that works. And they had said at the beginning that's what they would be good at, and lo and behold, it's come true.
I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah. What are some of the really cool special key components, if you had to kind of put in layman's term, to the most recent credit facility? Like what's so unique and special about that?
Yeah, this last one, and I had to learn a lot along the way on the importance of the portability. And so you get the most important.
The portability.
I feel like I'm being patronized
this is what she does,
a little bit. Is to keep the debt in place, to not go right back to another group and try to convince them to, give us $2 billion, right, or access to it. And so this last one we did. We took our existing debt, we packaged it up so that the next buyer could keep the structure in place.
Oh, cool.
Put half
I actually got that.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Put $500 million into future growth. So the BD team now has their financing facility for growth, and then another tranche of debt to have the non-controlling guys. So for those that aren't familiar with our structure, the first bite is 60-40. So we buy 60%, and then they can sell half of their equity down to a floor. There's always going to be practice equity,
right.
But we reserve that financing for that as well. So we're set, right? As of February 24, we've got growth capital, we've got practice equity capital, and now we just are looking for that buyer.
That's a huge competitive advantage for MB2, and just the longevity, and again having a 2, 3, 4 year runway on being able to continue to keep the M&A pace as it is. That's a big deal, really big deal. Talk to us about the future at MB2 and specifically as it relates to potentially becoming a publicly traded company and kind of what that entails in the preparation that your group and you have to, kind of go through.
Yeah, I think, as we get larger and anytime we have a recap event, all of our new potential partners say, well, you're too big. We've been told that, things are changing and we've done our best to deflect that and not change.
Yeah.
But in the law of large numbers, right, I do think we've got to be on our toes and very diligent about keeping the DNA the same. But there is, in my mind and in a lot of folks' mind, some inevitability of going public someday. As it stands today, there's much larger private companies. So, perhaps I'm wrong, but maybe in this macro environment we're in, we all kind of see the writing. But the way that looks, I think we can still be MB2, right? It gives us a currency to continue to partner with practices, albeit at the right entry multiple, and give them the same sort of option to like hook into the model, grow their own practice, keep the legacy of their practice, and then still monetize the rest of their practice equity at the higher multiples, which has been the offering since the beginning. It'll be a different format for sure. We joke my life will be different. I told Dr. V many years ago, like there's no part of me that like has sought after working for a company that's going public, but here we are.
Alas.
Alas. And the exec team, whenever we have discovery days, right, we always, we go in there and kind of give our background and what we do for the back office support. And it's so easy to talk to them about the continuity and tenure of the team, right? I've been here 7 years and that's on the low side. So I think it gives people, a bit of comfort of knowing like the people they're talking to are still going to be around the next day.
Exactly.
And that's similar for, our next pursuits. Like, right now we're in the middle of a process. And, after that, I don't think nothing really will change. We'll just kind of go and just figure out what the next phase of MB2 looks like.
Just like the last two times there was change, but there wasn't change. It all was just, okay, we got through it, business as usual. So as you talk about, I'm going backwards a little bit. You went from you joining and being like our finance team and now have a team of 75 people. We're talking a little bit also about the tenure of our leadership team. How do you hire and identify the right fit of employees for your team that have that same mentality?
So I think it's a great question.
Thank you.
Of the four VPs that we have within the finance group, I think of how they came to MB2, and they're all different. One's through a headhunter, one's through just colleagues, one's a high school friend. It's really interesting, and you just kind of figure out whether or not they're going to be a fit, and maybe for what area. The VP that manages all of our accountants and AP. I mean, it's a lot of people, so you're managing people. Then you got a guy who does a lot of our reporting. That's data mining, but it's a smaller team, but it's just as important. Everybody has their swim lane, and they're not designed to stay in it per se. But as long as they feel supported, and I feel like that's why there's continuity with the group. We don't have a lot of people leave, and when they do, hopefully it's for bigger and better things. But yeah, it just from my perspective, this is a financial operations role. It's much more people driven, and so with that, I do get out of the way a lot. They would agree.
He's like, ask any of them.
Ask any of them. But also, I step in and protect the team. I mean, like it's all the errors are on the scoreboard as it relates to the finance group, right? Because it's not one company. Like we have 700 plus different personal dental practices to which it hits home, and if you screw up a vendor that they see at their country club locally, like that's much more impactful and and then it goes to like what we're aimed to do, like bringing them. You can't just close the books and say it's error free, we're good. Like they expect you to give them better pricing and so it's working with, and as that team growing too, it's working with Jeff and team to be sure that they're taking advantage of that they're having real time decisions, and so like all of those things we're learning like in the level of priorities and importance to them. And so it's just finding people to be that for them.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about streamlining financial operations, and you kind of hit it just now, but I was going to ask like how you identify opportunity areas, like as we grow to consolidate or make, functions more efficient or make more sense that, back in the day we could have done it a certain way and now it has to look different because of our size. How are you guys identifying those opportunity areas that are within the finance function?
Yeah, I think it's the example of you have a centralized vendor, right? Instead of having 700 different payments go out to one vendor, you bring it all in house, right? And then you make it clear to them that they're a big national vendor, so that they play ball with you and give you the best pricing, but also like make it easy for you.
I would love to hear that call. You let them know that they're the big boys and they're going to play ball.
They love that.
Yeah, I bet.
But then on interacting with our doctor partners, like it's giving them access to information, knowing in the back of your mind they're 5% are actually going to utilize it when it's made available, but when it's not there, then it becomes a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It's being responsive, it's very like low hanging fruit, like easy type stuff. And so I think in fairness to the expectations of the partner, it's not like they're asking a ton, right? It's really timely information, timely reporting. And again, we're paid to be bland, right? We are successful if and when we're kind of out of the picture. So if you're not talking about finance, probably an okay thing.
Things are probably rocking and rolling.
Probably rocking and rolling.
I love it. Do you have any advice for potential partners who are thinking about talking to MB2 or any DSO out there, that things that they can do to prepare themselves for a kind of a finance transition?
I think Jake's the most intellectually honest person in America, and so he puts together all these materials that I hope get used. But whether it's it's his 20 questions, right, that you guys have pulled together. Like if they know that and know what they're looking for in a partner and are comfortable with there's no better option in my mind than joining with MB2. If they're transactional, if there's certain like if they don't want to be around and stay chairside and those things, like there's other options, and I'm sure they work well for that person.
Yeah.
But if you really understand and take the time to study what the offering is for MB2, it's the coolest.
Yeah, it's special.
And you look and folks, it can be 30, 60 days in, the vision that they had before and post, it's cool to ask them the same sort of question, because you really do. I think you lift a lot of stuff off their plate to where they can be clinicians, where they can think about the next phase.
I will say that's one of the cool things whenever I was doing integration and I would get to see these doctor partners that I worked with very intimately for a period of time. And then, we moved on to the next integration, catching up with them on like an owner's trip or at an owner's event and asking like, how are things now? Being able to see the difference. And yes, I know integration is tedious. So I know that they're wearing things a little bit heavy at the time anyway, but just being able to see the relief and the genuine like deep breath, or I was able to spend more time with my family, or now I get to mentor my associates because I don't have to be chairside as much. Like getting able to see the fallout of the partnership. I guess fallout's probably not the right word, but like the outcome is cool because we only get it for that period of time. Mm-hmm. Being able to see the impact is really
I think at our last retreat, the most common feedback happened to be from spouses who were like, "Oh, thank God you two came, because they were the worst before, and now I like them again."
Yeah, exactly.
I like them again.
Yeah,
I love it. A lot of spouse bookkeepers, I think, in the house, in my experience, that are very happy to relinquish that duty to you and your awesome team. Can you maybe talk about interest rates and specifically kind of how they've ebbed and flowed since you've been here, and kind of maybe how important that is, or how that impacts a company like MB2?
And how Botox is impacting that.
Yeah, the correlation to Botox and interest rates.
I think everybody's on the edge of their seats waiting.
Mm-hmm.
A little pre-podcast.
Anybody still listening at this point is like, "Oh, Lord, they're going into interest rates." No, I think for our space in LBO model, like it is, I think the appreciation for what we're dealing with today versus what it was 2 years ago. Debt was cheap. It's not cheap anymore. The math alone of DSO, DPO entry multiple and what they're able to sell at is what's leaving a bit of carnage in the space. And I'm proud where MB2 is in this, and we're really digging our heels and making sure that we stay disciplined in that, so that we don't find ourselves upside down in the way that the math does work. But candidly, we were paying a certain level of interest, make it up 6-7%, and now it's double digit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't free cash flow to service, the payments, it's not good.
No.
And nobody's in the business to just get their money back. So I think what we're witnessing is a lot of people that are realizing, oh God, you got to have a platform to operate, or man, a 3-year contract, that doctor's gone on
gonna cut it.
Yeah, on day one after it's over. And so thankfully we preach the 20-year and the long term. So we feel confident that we're here to stay, but there's certainly a residual impact of what we're seeing, and a lot of groups that probably sitting at 10 or 15 locations and realizing like this is a tough a tough season, if you will, and maybe it gets better. We all hope that it will, but in the meantime, there's got to be a shift towards lower entry multiples so that we all can thrive in this environment, because the game still works, right? Yep. Like it's not rocket science as to what we're doing. I think we're truly offering some sort of service that benefits the practice, the continuity, legacy of it, right. To where, we've had 100 owner transitions in the last couple of years.
Represent.
That's
right.
Where they grow 5% plus. So they rejuve practices that have been around for 20 years.
That's so special.
So the interest rates are tough. I think, I've said this since the beginning of the year. I do think when they go down, we'll take a breath of fresh air, a sigh of relief, if you will. But hopefully we don't go right back into some of the chaos that that we've been a part of for the last 24 months. So.
Yeah, I think there are like 30 DSOs, like 200 in general DSOs exist, but something like that. And there's like 30 that are in receivership or some form of that. So
bummer.
It's pretty interesting. But again, kudos to our incredible executive team that has managed MB2 through kind of that turmoil and those changes. Those are big, changes, those macro, shifts. And if the management team isn't adept, like that can be a problem.
All those cool cats.
Well,
I really enjoyed the riveting conversation around interest rates. But before we wrap up,
patronizing,
yet
again.
I feel like patronizing is whenever you know something other people don't know. I don't think I can patronize you when you're talking way over my head.
That's not true.
Okay.
We use this jargon to talk about really simple things, and you are able to deconstruct it. I've seen you give tours around and explain all this stuff, and you're nailing it much more than we are. So.
Well, thank you. At first, I couldn't tell if that was a compliment, but I appreciate it. So you've been with MB2, so you said since December 2017. Mm-hmm. So you have had a lot of experience at MB2 events, owner events. I want to hear one of your craziest or one of your fun stories from an MB2 event.
Oh my gosh, put me on the spot. There's been so many of them.
Should we talk about interest rates again?
We might need to go back to interest rates. They're not. A lot of these aren't PG, and they don't happen to me either.
Yeah,
they happen to Puckett.
Of course they do.
The number of things. By the way, they don't swarm around the CFO. Just FYI, these events, they're not like clamoring to get the ear of the interest rate guy. We've been to, I feel like, countless MB2 events I remember when we first started and they had all these costume parties or, theme parties, like, no way that they do this. And they're like, oh, you'll piss off V if you show up in jeans and a shirt. And like, lo and behold, I was like, wow, like this place is different. I can't think of like any specific, again, something I could share probably on this podcast is something. So,
I always just like to see if I can coax like a crazy story out of somebody by being like, oh, it's so fine. We can like edit it and post if we need to. But like most people.
Well, I think
people should have written a book in regard. Where the more crazy stuff happens is these BD trips to the, to their hometowns to like visit the practice and like the things that unravel from there. And so Joe's the one that you should be asking for
all sorts of fun stories. Look at that! Look at that deflection as a perfect CFO answer, right? For the coolest cat here at Lacey and Trinity in Carrollton.
So we'll have to
Texas.
interview Joe sometime to get those stories.
No, ma'am, it's not my job. Hey, man, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Seriously,
yeah, thanks for coming out.
Easy.
Was there anything that you wanted to add?
Nothing.
Anything that we
want
missed?
to add. Good luck. Edit well.
You got it.
Listeners, thank you for joining us for another great episode of the MB2 Underground podcast. Get going.
Power to the partners.